Projects Committee. Please give your attention to this short video.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Okay, thank you. Christina, will you conduct the roll call?
Yes, Chair Nowak,
Here.
Vice Chair Butt,
Here.
Commissioner Arnridge,
Here.
Commissioner Geringer,
Here.
Commissioner Thorpe, do I have any alternates here? No? Okay. So the meeting can continue with the members present. We do have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. Christina, did we receive any written public comment?
No, we have not.
Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comment on an item that's not on the agenda? If so, please raise your hand and staff and I will call upon you.
I see no
None?
hands raised.
Okay. Great, I will close public comment. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Are there any changes, comments, et cetera, from the committee? Does anybody want to pull an item? Newell?
I just want to make a comment just to thank staff and the contractor. And this is on consent item number 3D. It's the plant establishment. May sound like a simple thing, but in Danville, in order to do this, these segments, we had to wipe out about a mile's worth of kind of this Sleepy Hollow looking street of this beautiful tree cover. And we saw an opportunity with this contractor to add money from our side, to add money to be able to do really lush landscaping. And we always use that term. I've never seen such lush landscaping. It came out beautiful. The walls are covered in English ivy on both sides. The trees have done incredibly well. We didn't lose any during this past 5 years. So just a big thank you to everybody who was involved in that.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
I've received no public comment.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Okay, can I have a motion, please?
I'm
Kristen?
happy to move the consent calendar, Geringer.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Geringer and a second by Arnrich. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, Chair Nowak,
Yes?
Vice Chair Butt,
Yes.
Commissioner Arnridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Geringer.
Yes.
The motion passes with members present.
Thank you. We will now move on to the regular agenda items. First one is informational item introduced by Lindsay.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. This morning, we have legislative updates for you from both our federal advocacy team and our state advocacy team. And since the last time we met, we've had some very productive meetings in both Sacramento and Washington, DC, kind of continuing to establish relationships with our legislators and regulatory agencies. And so I will let our teams dive into it. And since Mark Watts is on camera, I'm going to let our state advocate, Mark Watts, go first this morning. So Mark, take it away. You're on mute, Mark. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Pardon me. Thank you for having me here today. As Lindsay said, there's been a lot of activity since the last time we met in the committee session. At that time, there were several bills of troubling nature and the budget was still up in the air. I thought I'd cover the bills because they were of high focus at the time we had our last session. The three bills were AB 1778 by Christina Garcia that would have prohibited widenings of freeways and interchanges. AB 2237, which was would have tied the sales tax programs, local self-help county programs, to CAPTI and other state clean air programs. And then the third bill was AB 2438 by Assemblymember Friedman that would have tied state funding to similar programs as the previous bill. Well, we had quite a bit of success. We had a coalition of the construction industry, allied labor, the self-help counties, and RTPAs throughout the state, pushing very hard on these bills to either reform them, change them, modify them, or outright strongly oppose and push for failure. Well, first bill, AB 1778, did fail in Senate Transportation Committee. And this is the bill that would have prohibited widening of freeways and interchanges. And they're very grateful for the outcome on that and the support from the Senate Transportation Committee members who rejected that bill. AB 2237, which was the one that was probably the most troubling directly for self-help counties, Assemblymember Friedman or Chair Friedman's bill was eventually dropped. They had tried to make some amendments. They didn't come through with the amendments that we hoped, and we strongly opposed. There is rumor that something along this line, the line of this bill may come back in August, but we're keeping an eagle eye out and starting to reach out to the author's office to see what's going on. The third bill was AB 2438. This was the bill that would have tied this major state transportation programs to the climate action plan that Cal SDA put together. It would have affected ITIP, which is part of the STIP, local partnership program, competitive grants, the big freight program, TCEP, congestion corridor programs, and the SHOP. Eventually, the bill was amended. So gosh, it's so complicated. Cal SDA is going to be required to assure that the TIRCP guidelines have more accountancy and transparency built into the guidelines. And the CTC's responsibility would be to do the same thing for the programs I just listed. So we felt that that was a bill that was no longer necessary to oppose. That bill did pass and is set for a Senate Appropriations Committee on August 1st. So all in all, I think the coalition worked very well together. And I think the outcome speaks to how well we work together. So thank you for your opposition. Using that to talk to members and staff was very, very important and was very beneficial. So turning a page to the budget, at the last time we met as well, the budget was up in the air. It looked like it was coming together, and it eventually did on the 13th of June in a major structurally sound condition, however, leaving open the transportation components. It did provide a single major appropriation, but the details were lacking. Well, subsequent to that point in time, the week before the end of this legislative session for the summer, they hammered out a transportation package and all the other changes necessary for the State Budget Act to work going forward were all adopted and sent to the governor last weekend. The transportation package, first off, there is no gas tax holiday built into this program. In lieu of that, there is more generic inflation relief provided at a substantial amount. There is, however, a holiday for the state sales tax portion of the sales tax applied to diesel fuel. So if they hadn't been so clarifying, they could have roped in by that definition. It could have affected transit funding, but they cleaved it and ensured that the transit funding that depends upon the diesel fuel sales tax was not affected. So the cost per gallon as a result of that for users and drivers of diesel vehicles is about worth 23 cents a gallon at that point in time. Moving on, the transportation package overall, and I'll try to speed through this, but I'll try to hit the highlights. $10.8 billion committed from the general fund over the next several years. And that specifically included 5.4 for 22-23 budget year. And then proposed intent to provide 2.7 billion in 2023-24 and another 2 billion in 2024-25. Some of the highlight programs that received funding includes $1.2 billion for freight structure at the ports, another billion added in the current year for ATP, $350 million for high priority grade separation projects in the state, as well as funding for local climate adaptation and a pilot program for connecting neighborhoods, which is a new federal program as well. I just want to go on a little bit more detail on the transit funding because I think there's some implications for programs that we're interested in. There's 3.65 billion for transit investments in the current year now. And it's split basically on a 55-45 basis, 55 south, 45 north, which becomes 1.83 billion in the south and 1.5 billion in the north. There's an additional 300 million earmarked for the Del Mar Bluffs relocations to defeat sea level rise implications for the trackage between San Diego and LA. There's a number of other things, but I would highlight that this budget does appropriate the last 4.2 billion in Proposition 1A funds for the High-Speed Rail Authority. It also has trailer bill language that provides direction and prioritization on how to move and spend the rest of that money. And it also establishes a new Office of Inspector General to oversee and provide assurances to the legislature and the people of California that there is improved oversight and governance of the project. I think that would be all I would report on right now. There's a lot more details. I've got a nice breakout I've prepared on how the TIRCP, which is a very important program for the authority. We have a pending TIRCP grant, and there's a potential that with the budget funding provided for transit, that the Secretary's office would augment the TIRCP program in an augmented funding request. And that may open the door to give us our full amount that we've put on the table for this year. So I'll conclude at that and be happy to take any questions and hope to answer them. There's a lot of details going on right now. Thank you.
Yeah, Newell, we'll take some questions from Mark before we move on to federal.
Yeah, Mark, I really just want to say thanks for all the hard work. This was some challenging efforts, but it's also an incredible opportunity this year. This is hopefully something, as you said, it'll last for a few years. It looks like they're projecting budget, excess budget for the next 2 years. And I think we're well poised. I was just going to suggest to both you and Lindsay that given the number of things that CCTA is lobbying on, I think it would be good to share that list in some detail with each of the 19 cities in the county, because each of us have our own lobbyists, and some of us, like 5 cities, we're together with a lobbyist, and we do different things. It'd be good to know that, because when we're in there lobbying for our own things, we got to say, and by the way, we're part of CCTA, and these are important values to us, so that we can sort of cross-pollinate those. Because I think the next 2 years, 3 years here is going to be just great opportunity. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions for Mark? Okay. Lindsay, we'll move on to whoever's going to handle the federal side.
Yeah, I see both Gus and Madeline. So I will let you two decide which one's gonna start to give us the federal update.
Hey, good morning, everyone. For our federal update, since our last meeting, Tim and Lindsay did come to Washington, as Lindsay had mentioned, met with a number of regulatory officials at the Department of Transportation, as well as a few of the congressional representatives and Transportation Committee staff. Some of these meetings included the Federal Transit Administrator, Neria Fernandez, and some federal officials, as well as some freight railroad stakeholders about various projects going on around the county. For a bit of a CCTA specific focus outside of the MTC meetings, we also met with the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee staff to build a relationship. These will be the congressional staff who are overseeing the infrastructure bill money from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, how that is spent and implemented as DOT awards grants and rolls out the formula funds on those new programs. Also met with Congressman Garamendi and DeSaulnier, and we are working on, with Lindsay, scheduling a follow-up with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration officials for an update on the Automated Driving Systems grant and the new news there as well. Looking forward for the rest of the summer, we're tracking the state of appropriations. The House is marking up its bills and is planning to possibly bring some to the floor in the coming weeks. The Senate is a bit of a standstill right now. The chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee recently had an unexpected surgery and is recovering. Given the congressional calendar, we'll see if there's much committee action before the August recess. But given the state of play, we were expecting a likely continuing resolution, which is essentially autopilot of the current funding levels to get through the midterm election.
Did Gus freeze for anybody else?
Yeah, Gus.
Frozen. You were frozen
Oh,
there,
yeah, frozen.
Gus.
Can you, hello?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. I was just mentioning the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. I believe CCTA is going to be working on an application for that as well. That's due, I believe, early September. And just like we did with the mega project grant, coordinating some congressional support on that effort, we'll be working with the staff and also with the congressional offices to get let.
We lost you again.
Oh, froze again.
I believe he was gonna say we're working to get letters of support. I'm like, we
Yes.
have in past minutes.
Yes, I don't know if I'm back, but Lindsay said it.
You are.
Okay. Well, I think that covers a lot of what I was going to say. If there are any questions, I'll try to answer those before I freeze again.
Is there any update on where we're at with our mega project grant? And that, where is that and what's the expected timing on that?
So the application period ended right at the end of May. We're about a little over a month past that. They'll be going through the technical staff review, just making sure that things hit the requisite boxes. Getting close to the period where there's some level of political weigh-in as well. I would imagine that there's an interest in getting those out, likely early fall. But as it's a new program, this is the first round that the agency has spent reviewing all of these and seeing all of the different types of applications, given the broad multimodal nature of it. They don't have a statutory deadline, to answer your question.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. Thanks, Gus.
Is that it for federal or anything additional?
I don't have much to add, but I would
Okay.
just, excuse me, we're really coming down to the wire in terms of how many congressional days are on the schedule before the elections. So we're kind of coming down to the wire when it comes to must pass legislation. And there's a lot of things that are really up in the air, not necessarily transportation related, but the China competes USICA bill is a big priority for both the Senate and the House, and we'll see how that plays out. And then additionally, there are now talks about bringing back this big reconciliation package that I'm sure we've talked about in the past, which is very controversial. And so I don't know what the actual possibility of that getting through is, but that's a really big chunk of money. So, we're obviously monitoring that, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But I think I counted it, and there's six legislative weeks left in the year or something like that. So getting down to the wire.
Okay, thank you both. Any questions? Any additional questions? No? Okay, Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Nowak. I wanted to maybe shed some light on some grant strategy that we're working on. So I think everyone's aware of kind of where we're at with the mega grant, and Gus mentioned the Safe Streets for All notice of funding opportunity that's out. We're actually we're developing a county-wide strategy for that Safe Streets for All grant. And so we're looking at how we can, pull together multiple projects into the grant opportunity. There's not as much money as we thought there was going to be. So the number of projects actually might be very limited. We might be looking at maybe 2, 3, possibly 4 projects across the county, because there is a limited amount of funding and we want to make sure our grant is competitive. And so we're working on that in conjunction with all the local jurisdictions, as well as the OBAG 3 solicitation, and looking at what types of Vision Zero and active transportation projects we're going to be getting as part of the OBAG 3 call for projects. So that's all kind of in the mix. That's probably our highest priority grant that we're working on right now. And then Maddie and Gus have provided us a schedule of when future grant opportunities are going to be coming out. And so the other grant opportunity that we're starting to think about is the SMART grant. That's a technology grant, and that's supposed to be coming out in the fall timeframe. And so we're starting to wrap our head around, what type of project and scope we want to start putting forward with that, and to be the most competitive. So that's all kind of in the mix right now. And we want to make sure that we're taking a first crack at this first cycle of bill grants, because we're not exactly sure how the administrations can be administering them, whether they're going to be doing multi-year grants or doing on an annual basis. And so we really feel like it's important to kind of really hit this first year really hard to see what our best opportunities are. So that's kind of where we're at on the overall grant strategy. There's also some other opportunities we're tracking in terms of DOE opportunities. DOE just put out a newsletter about a month ago with essentially a number of opportunities. And so we're also tracking that as well. That particular opportunity, it has a number of grant opportunities for vendors, for technology partners, as well as agencies like CCTA. And so we're actually working on a concept with Solano County, Alameda County, and putting together potentially some large electrification projects for the 80 and 680 corridor for the DOE grant. And so we're starting those conversations right now. And then there's also a potential ferry opportunity that we're going to be looking at as well to help expand ferry service through Martinez and Antioch and Pittsburgh and Hercules. So that's another opportunity we're looking at. So we're keeping really close eye on all these grant opportunities. And, as all of you know, these grant opportunities are very strategic and also very costly. So it does take money to get the money. And so, we're trying to be take the smartest approach to that. The other challenge that I'm sure you're all aware is match funding. So, that's where we're trying to be really creative. That's why we're working really closely with our local jurisdictions, because quite frankly, that's where most of the match funding is in Measure J. So we're trying to really be really creative of how we pull together the match funding for a lot of these grant opportunities.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you. Well, first, I guess we get any written public comments on this? No?
No, we received no written.
Comments, and any hands raised that want to speak on this subject? Okay, well, thank all of you. The super detailed and great information. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda is an action item presented by Stephanie Hugh, seeking authorization to execute MOU number 91.00.01 with the Eastern Contra Costa Transit Authority, which defines the roles and responsibilities for tasks related to the planning and advancement of the East County Dynamic Personal Micro Transit. Stephanie, is this where the music comes in, Stephanie?
Yes, thank you. Chair Nowak, can you see the slide okay?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the chair got a preview of the techno music that we'll hear later. But just good morning, everyone. I'm Stephanie Hugh, Director of Project at CCTA. This agenda item, as the chair noted, is an action item seeking your approval or the chair approval for the chair to execute an MOU with Tri-Delta Transit to advance the Dynamic Personal Microtransit or DPMT project. Staff had brought this project before you a couple of times over this past year, so I'll be brief and a quick update of where we're at. The DPMT project aims to tackle East County priorities that include improved transit experience for the users, providing transit services that have equitable access, support economic development in East County by increasing mobility, support first mile, last mile connections at major transit stop like BART station in the East County, preparing the future in transit technology, and be able to show the public the benefits of transit in order to encourage mode shift and transit use. In 2021, the East County cities and the county collaborated and conducted a feasibility study to assess the viability of DPMT in East County. The study did assume glideways technology, but we know there are other technologies and vendors out there in the market that can implement such a project. The study also evaluated the feasibility of attracting private funding and public funding delivery method for the project. And the study finally concluded that the DPMT deployment is feasible in East County. Based on feedback received from key stakeholders in the East County, a conceptual alignment was developed. The conceptual route that's shown here on the slide is a continuous path that links existing and future development and major destinations. And this alignment that we're showing here is not the final alignment. And during this first phase of the project, we would like the project team that we will procure to refine the alignment and to determine a logical initial segment to be implemented first. Some key parameters that we'll be looking at for a DPMT project include that the system be on demand with short wait times. We're looking for a personal microtransit system. So each ride is for one party to get them from point A to point B. The system is to be fully autonomous and be operated with zero emission vehicles. The elements in the system will need to comply with federal Made in America rules and be ADA accessible, since we'll be definitely pursuing federal funding for the project. And operationally, we're looking for a system with smaller vehicles that are fully separated from traffic with dedicated space. They'll need to operate in both directions separately, and they can be operated at grade or grade separated. And staff received some feedback from our last presentation to the board that seeing some simulation of videos of how DPMT works would help better understand the project. And as we mentioned, I mentioned earlier, there are companies out there beside Glideways that can implement a DPMT project. I have 3 short videos here from 3 firms that have the technology that can do the work, and the following videos will be from Beep, Glideways, and To Get There. And since we don't have a lot of budget right now to create our own videos, I'm hoping, or simulation at this time, we're hoping these videos from vendors will help convey what we're trying to achieve with the DPMT system. And in the videos, you'll see the DPMT deployed in urban settings, connecting key points of destinations within a gated community at an airport, school, and business parks. So the first video is from Beep.
Beep ensures equitable access. With proven technologies, our autonomous solutions provide safer and sustainable alternative transportation for those seeking and needing it. Beep enhances mobility for all in various types of communities, whether it's establishing shared transportation services within new and existing communities, or within urban centers where existing transit networks need greater connectivity. Beep creates a seamless passenger experience. Our engagement with all members of the community also makes Beep accessible and ensures riders' needs are addressed today and for the future. With Beep autonomous mobility solutions, life is better in motion.
And then this next video is from Glideways, and it shows a DPMT system connecting San Jose International Airport and a Deer Dawn station in downtown San Jose. Sorry, this video doesn't have sound, so I'm narrating what I can. And in this example, the vehicles are running on an elevated guideway separated from the roadway and the pedestrian traffic down below. And this last one is from a company called To Get There. Separate. So I hope the videos help to convey what we're trying to achieve in the East County with a DPMT system. Also, I wanted just to continue with some updates. Since the completion of the feasibility study, TriDelta and CCTA have been collaborating on how to deliver the DPMT project. We've conducted an industry outreach in February and received feedback from interested firms. We continue to refine our delivery strategy using the public-private partnership or P3 model that includes a developer team with designated roles that can access a range of funding opportunities to navigate the funding constraints and also P3 restrictions. And eventually, we hope that TriDelta and CCTA will jointly contract with a P3 developer team. To move forward effectively, an MOU has been developed that describe how CCTA and TriDelta will continue to collaborate to deliver the project. The MOU defines the roles and responsibilities of the two agencies, such as jointly collaborating to define project scope, budget, and framework to advance the project, release an RFP to select a developer team and to negotiate with the selected team. The MOU also describes advancing the project using the P3 delivery model to develop and implement the DPMT project if it's financially feasible. It also describes the procurement process to identify a developer team and the process for future agreements with the team. The Tri-Delta board approved this MOU at their board meeting in May. This is a tentative schedule with the execution of the MOU this month. CCTA and Tri-Delta will continue to collaborate on advancing the project. Staff has been working on drafting an RFP to procure a developer team, which we plan to bring back to the board in September for approval. We anticipate selecting a developer team later this year and executing a system pre-development agreement in the first quarter of 2023. In the initial phase of the project, the developer team will help us identify a first segment of the project, funding opportunities, and funding plan for this first segment. And then looking out a feasible funding framework, a system developer agreement to implement the project is anticipated in 2 to 3 years. And to conclude, staff seeks authorization for the chair to execute MOU 9100.01 with East Contra Costa Transit Authority that defines roles and responsibilities for tasks related to the planning and advancement of the DPMT project. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. Any questions for Stephanie? No, this is sort of a follow-up to, oh, now I've got hands raised. Tom, what?
I realize this is, very preliminary and organizational, but does anybody have a ballpark idea about what this project would cost and where the funding might come from?
You're right, Commissioner, but it is very early on. The whole system cost about whatever route that we saw earlier in that entirety, it's about $400 million. Obviously, there's not that large amount of money. So we're, as I mentioned, trying to find a first segment that would be a logical segment to start. And there is no cost estimate for that initial piece. In terms of funding, we mentioned TIRCIP application earlier. That would be one source of funding we can look into. And then also look into these private investments as part of the P3 framework. So that would be part of the first phase to develop a first segment, to develop a funding plan and what funding opportunities that the project can pursue. That's part of this first phase that we're looking at to begin.
Okay, thank you.
Newell?
I really didn't have a question. I just want to make a comment. First of all, I think, this is our goal. This is really what we're after. It's this first mile, last mile. And this maybe goes beyond that in a lot of ways, but it makes those connectivities that are the real gaps that would cause people to quit using their personal cars. That if we could fill these in, then it works. And, it's a track that we're on that, Tom's right and Stephanie answered it right. We don't really know what this is going to cost, because if it's an elevated system, oh my God, just put $1 billion on it. If it's not, there's a system that we saw in one of those that's already working, and it doesn't take the infrastructure. So that's part of a solution in terms of how it might be evaluated. But as an agency, we have to do this. This is groundbreaking, and we've had, Innovate 680 has some opportunities. But this is between the freeways. This is connecting all of our transit systems and really pulling them together in different ways. So, I'm willing. It's like rolling the dice a little bit, that we don't know where we're going to go. But if we don't try, we will never get there. It's sort of like, try to get out of your chair. Well, either you do or you don't. So I think we're headed the right way, and success will speak for itself. If we can get to that point of getting the right system in place and getting one segment built, and it just works. It has to be between two specific areas that are so logical that somebody'd say, well, of course we would do this. And we get that built, and up and running, it will be a game changer. So, I'm absolutely 110% behind this.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Christina, do we receive any written public comments?
No written public comments.
Okay, and are there any hands raised for public comments? I do not see any. Okay, bring it back to the committee. Do we have a motion to approve?
Yes, so moved as presented.
Second, Geringer.
All right, we have a motion from Ernrich and a second from Geringer. May we have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, Chair Nowak,
Yes?
Vice Chair Butt,
Yes,
Commissioner Ernrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Geringer.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an action item as well, presented by Stephanie Hugh, seeking authorization to execute amendment number 2 to agreement number 530 with WSP USA. Stephanie?
Thanks, Chair. And I believe the slides transitioned fine. I think you can see.
Yep.
Yep,
No
great.
music?
No, not this one. But this item is still, it is also another action item seeking your approval for amendment number 2 for agreement number 530 with WSP for Innovate 680 program and project support. So the Authority Board entered into agreement number 530 with WSP in July 2019 to provide strategic development, corridor-wide support, and system management for the Innovate 680 program. The contract amount was $5 million. Under the program and corridor support task, the WSP team has provided services for program management and coordination, stakeholder outreach efforts such as the TAC and the PAC, contract management for the consultant teams working under the program and budget controls, and coordination between all the projects and discipline teams within the program. For system management, the tasks included developing a program concept of operations, system engineering and management plan, and strategic development plan. In July 2021, the Authority Board approved amendment number 1 to add scope of work specifically for the Coordinated Adaptive Ramp Metering or CARM project. This additional work involves system planning, engineering, and environmental support to evaluate CARM for the corridor. The work included design concepts and preliminary cost estimate. The team was able to also begin the process of coordinating with Caltrans to incorporate CARM with Caltrans's own ramp metering project that's currently being developed. The additional budget from Amendment 1 also included initiating a project concept of operations, preliminary system verification and validation plan, and a preliminary O&M plan. The team also completed the Caltrans project initiations document in November 2021. The current budget for the contract is only sufficient to cover the cost of all these services up to end of June 2022. The staff is seeking approval to execute amendment number 2, totaling $3.8 million to cover WSP services through the end of June 2024. The additional budget is to complete the project approval and environmental document phase for segment 1 of CARM, and to continue coordination with Caltrans to incorporate CARM into their ramp metering project. The amendment will also cover costs for continuation of program and corridor support, system management services, and support these authority staff to deliver the ongoing projects under Innovate 680. The amendment also includes a small contingency for optional traffic analysis work. And since there's been a few months, over half a year since I provided a board briefing on the program, I'd like to just take a few minutes to give you all a status update on how we have advanced the program and the projects. This slide should look very familiar. It shows our 6 initial projects that are part of the program. And as mentioned earlier, the WSP team supports the delivery of these projects. The Express Lane completion project is proposing to close the existing northbound Express Lane gap between Walnut Creek and the Martinez-Benicia Bridge. The project is in the environmental clearance phase. The team has been working on a VMT mitigation strategy and proposal, and we are scheduled to meet with Caltrans headquarters later this month to present our proposal. The team is also working on a traffic operations analysis report and a design standard decision document. The part-time transit lane or transit bus on shoulder has identified a first phase to be on northbound 680 between Bollinger Canyon Road and Ignacio Valley Road. The team submitted recently a draft project initiation document to Caltrans. The team is reviewing the comments, addressing them, and they plan to submit the final version in August. The Shared Mobility Hubs project is looking at 8 hub sites along the corridor as part of their current effort for the feasibility study. They've completed a site background and identification report, and the team has also met with each local jurisdiction and agency partner to gather comments and feedback on the site concepts, and the feasibility study is scheduled to be completed later this fall. The automated driving system is the pilot program with the 3 shared autonomous vehicle demonstration projects. The team is continuing to collaborate with UC Berkeley, Verizon, and Nissan on use cases, and staff is working on contract negotiation with the new SAV vendor, as well as coordinating with County Connection on a master agreement and scope of work. The Mobility as a Service app, the project team continues to develop the application. Current work includes resolving issues with the trip planner platform and also integration between various elements like car share, ride share, and the connection protection. And then the software and app development work is ongoing. And lastly, the Advanced Technologies project consists currently the Coordinated Adaptive Ramp Metering, or CARM. The first segment has been identified to be northbound 680 between Olympic and El Costa. The team has been working on a consensus memo to describe the process on how to achieve CARM implementation alongside with the ramp metering project that Caltrans is developing. The team has submitted a set of preliminary geometric design drawings to Caltrans, and coordination with the Caltrans ramp metering team is ongoing. And the Advanced Technology project has initiated a coordinated adapted traffic signals project, and we're currently collecting data from our local jurisdictions. Staff has pursued various funding opportunities for the program and projects. In March, CTC programmed STIP dollars through the 2022 STIP cycle for CARM and northbound express lanes. $25 million was programmed for the design and construction phases for the first segment of CARM, and $15 million was programmed for the design for the first phase of northbound express lanes. We've already touched upon the TIRSIP application and the mega grant earlier, so I won't belabor that, but those two will help fund a lot of the components of Innovate 680. The program team also completed the concept of operations for the program, and they completed it end of 2021. The CONOPS documents helps to describe how the program's 6 projects and the existing local and regional systems will work together. And since completing the CONOPS, the WSP team has been working on an implementation plan. And the implementation plan is basically a bridging document that distills the vision that was articulated in the program CONOPS into actionable steps that will help serve as a roadmap for implementing the Innovate 680 program and projects. And as we develop and carry out the implementation plan, one major topic to tackle in the next year or two is CCTA's role in operations and maintenance. Some of the key O&M principles the team has developed are that a regional transportation management center, or RTMC, would be ideal to tie together different O&M needs for our program, and also as a region, since the existing O&M structure or systems are so fragmented. But we know that it would take a long time to implement an RTMC, as much as 10 years. So in the short term, we need to maximize the use and leverage the existing system, though fragmented, to build towards the future RTMC. We need to identify which system components could be hosted in the cloud versus those that will require physical space. And we also need to assess the ability for 24/7 access. We also need to identify any gaps in the existing operation system and how CCTA can be involved in a county operation to help fill those gaps. The county operations could be small in footprint to start, as CCTA and other partners build towards a larger joint TMC or RTMC. The county operations could be very small with 2 to 3 full-time employees in an existing facility, and this can help build towards the longer-term solution for a countywide joint or RTMC. And then even with the RTMC in place, there will still be a need or an important role for the county operations to implement Innovate 680. So staff and the program team have been discussing topics regarding O&M at the PAC level. We actually also just completed one-on-one meetings with each of the local jurisdictions, technical and executive staff, where the O&M topics have been discussed. And then we definitely will be bringing the O&M topic before the authority board in the near future for further discussion and decision making. This is a current schedule of the program and its projects. There's a lot of information here, but this is really to convey that the projects in the program began their planning phases in the beginning with Innovate 680 program started in 2020. So while most of the ongoing and completed efforts are planning in nature or documents with Caltrans and other stakeholders, they are really essential and required to advance the engineering, to the engineering and design phases. And then we anticipate the design phases to be complete in the next couple of years for projects such as the automated driving systems and the segment 1 of CARM. And then just to note that the progress we made over the past 3 years really requires significant teamwork and collaboration between authority staff, the WSP team, and other consultant teams on the program and projects. So to conclude and summarize, this agenda item is an action item seeking authorization for the chair to execute amendment number 2 to agreement number 530 with WSP in amount of $3.8 million, which includes $161,566 in contingency for a new total agreement value of $9,786,183, and to allow the executive director or designee to make any non-substantive changes to the language. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions? Noel?
Stephanie, thank you. That's a great presentation. Exciting, really exciting stuff. But you did focus a little bit on working with Caltrans and how rent metering is such a crucial part of this. Just candidly, what is your confidence level that Caltrans is on board in an open-minded way, and that they acknowledge that the way that they have done rent metering is not going to be the solution that we're proposing? I mean, have they accepted that it's going to be different? Because if they don't, then we're gonna end up nowhere.
Yeah, no, we know they're on board. Actually, on the consent calendar, there's this work plan for the integrated team that we have in an agreement with Caltrans to really, not just the program, but also the CARM project, to collaborate and make sure this happens. They know we have the STIP dollars for CARM that can be implemented alongside their rent metering project. So that's assurance that we will deliver and we have money for it for this first segment. And then through our coordination with them, they are on board. And I know Tim's been talking to the executive on the executive level to make these things happen, as well as MTC. So yeah, I would say they are on board. You know, there's challenges, of course, but we're working through them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that it's an organization that still uses details for things that, just say in modern days, you'd say you shouldn't keep doing it that way. And I just worry that, you know, this could all be for naught.
Yeah, and also to be candid, I think they realize that the local jurisdictions along the corridor don't want the traditional rent metering, so they acknowledge that, and so yeah, I think Tim has.
Good, because we're, you know, like in Danville and I know San Ramon has talked about it as well, but we're trying to get Caltrans to allow us to take over control and the maintenance and the ownership of all the on-off ramp and the overpasses, because it's not tied into our system and they don't work together. And we try, but they won't. So I just hope that is always at the top of our list to make sure. And if it doesn't, let us all know right away so we can do whatever we need to change that course. So thank you.
Yeah.
Tim, did you have some follow?
I just wanted to add to the rent metering topic. So I think Caltrans actually participated in the field tour of the I-25 smart freeway project that's using similar technology that we've been discussing. And so I think that field tour was really key to getting their support of the co-opted adaptive rent metering. Actually seeing it deployed in the States was really, really helpful to them. And I think ever since that tour in April, there's been resounding support around that concept. I will also say that we're not the only ones in the state that are actually pursuing this cooperative adaptive ramp metering project. There's also another project in Southern California that we've been working closely with Riverside County Transportation Commission, and we've been collaboratively working both with the Southern California districts and Northern California districts to really push this on headquarters. And headquarters has really been receptive, because not only is just CCTA, but other agencies in California are also looking at this technology. And so headquarters realize that things need to change. I will also mention that, one of our key champions from District 4 was now promoted in an acting role in headquarters, which has also been a real key to our success here. And so I think the biggest issue that we have to tackle is going to be the O&M piece, to be quite honest. We're going to have to be able to maintain a system like this. You need performance-based maintenance, and Caltrans doesn't necessarily operate that way. And so that's probably the biggest key thing and key challenge that we're going to be anticipating. And I think that's where CCTA can really kind of help and maybe start walking in and supporting more of those aspects of operations. I mean, it's very similar to how the local jurisdictions want to step into that role at those local intersections. I mean, this is another opportunity for CCTA to kind of step into that role, very similar to how MTC is operating the express lanes in the 680 corridor through encroacher permit and basically doing the maintenance as well as operating the actual express lane. So there could be a similar arrangement. So we're talking about that with Caltrans moving forward. I think the other benefit to Innovate 680 is obviously the governance structure. So we meet with the deputies and also folks from headquarters on a quarterly basis to talk about key issues. And so that just to be able to have that communication structure has helped us kind of gain that support for the ramp metering and also other advanced technologies that we're proposing in the corridor.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I'm just surprised, Stephanie, you didn't include the ConOps, flow chart that we usually get at Innovate 680, because
I thought you would take a break from it this month.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm not sure it would have fit on my screen anymore, but anyway, it's a pretty impressive document. So you only brought it down to 3 blocks. I was disappointed there. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay. Have we received any written public comments on this?
No written public comments.
Okay. Anybody from the public wanting to speak on this, please raise your hand. I do not see any hands raised. So with that, I will close public comment and look for a motion. Teresa?
Yep, I am happy to move the staff recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Geringer and a second from Arnrich. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Chair Noack,
Yes?
Vice Chair Butt,
Yes.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Geringer.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay. We are on to item 5, correspondence and communications. We have no correspondence. Chair's comments. I do not have any comments. Commissioners, any commissioners' comments or reports? No? Okay. Executive staff. Tim, do you have any additional comments?
Just wanted to follow up on the Transit Intercity Capital Rail Program, the TIRSA grant. So we are, through the grapevine, we're expecting announcements today. So I'm hoping that I will be sending an email out to the board, hopefully later today, with some good news. So hopefully everyone will cross their fingers on that.
Okay. Great. Any other business we have? I don't see any. So with that, we will adjourn and thank you, everybody. See you all at the next meeting.
Thank you.
See you tonight at Mayor's Conference.
Yeah.
Thanks.